She is indeed most wondrous fair, gold of sunshine in her hair, lips that shame the red, red rose, in ageless sleep she finds repose. Welcome back to the Bucket Think Tank for Disney Royalty number 3, Sleeping Beauty, Aurora, and Philip. So honestly, Sleeping Beauty is an odd film. And odd because if you put it next to the other two, its two predecessors for Disney Royalty, it doesn't really look like a proper Disney fairy tale. It looks like it's trying to be more of a definitive fairy tale. It hits all the classic beats you would expect, even down to its art style, because the whole thing to me feels like it wants to be told through tapestries. It feels a bit more like the opening to the Sword and the Stone. This amazing, almost epic-like opening. It feels very classic and timeless. This film is telling you a story that is supposed to be timeless because it hits all the classic fairy tale beats. It has the perfect princess, the ideal prince, the king, the queen, the other king, the good fairies, the evil fairies. There's a dragon here, two castles, and a really low budget army. But amongst all this, there is our real focus here, which is Aurora and Philip. And what is weird about Aurora and Philip, especially for quote unquote protagonists, they're kind of totally uninvolved in what's really going on. They have no idea that this is about something that happened years ago involving the kingdom, Maleficent, why there are no spinning wheels, which has probably really messed up the economy, why Aurora has to hide out, why Philip didn't even know about it. It's whether Philip didn't know about Aurora. That not only was he betrothed to her, but she has to hide out because Maleficent's after her. I mean, I get the idea secrecy is the key here, but come on. This sort of part of the film reminds me a bit of the fairy godmother in Shrek 2, because the more you look at Shrek 2, the more you look at the fairy godmother, you kind of wonder what else was going on here. Did they ever imply that the fairy godmother is the reason Fiona turns into an ogre every night? Because she had it perfectly planned out that, hey, my son will come in here, he's the definitive Prince Charming, his name actually is Charming, he'll go save your daughter, kiss her, and everything will work out fine. Remember, she also helped Fiona's dad find his happy ending. So you kind of wonder exactly who in that kingdom has actually had a legitimate, romance to an extent. But in terms of Disney royalty and how Aurora and Philip stack, they're a bit of an oddity because Aurora, I think, is a step back, and Philip is honestly he's kind of a step forward, but he's more of that first actual step. Because I think the Disney princesses here were starting to grow and grow and grow, and Aurora was kind of an awkward position for them, and Philip spends a lot of time essentially just trying to redeem his two predecessors. So, starting with Aurora. Aurora is she's a very ideal beauty in a lot of ways. She has sort of look of a debutante. She walks and she floats a bit. She whenever she walks, there's a certain rhythm and dance to it, like a ballerina, which really helps with the idea of the classic film. She was based. Her design was based a bit off of Audrey Hepburn. And you even see how she moves her hair, bounces a bit, which didn't happen a lot in the previous two films. But there's a certain coyness, a certain perfection that comes with Aurora or Briar Rose as she walks through the forest, and she's able to hit these perfect notes, and she has this very beautiful dream of meeting the perfect person, which it's a bit of an oddity. It's a bit of an oddity but not that much. This cloistered teenage girl would dream about meeting someone amazing. She gives the default tall, dark, handsome, mysterious, and she sort of plays sort of cute and innocent with her animal friends who just love her. It's really fun seeing that sort of development. She's dreaming of the romance of possibly even the friendship. I think this is something that will not properly be fleshed out a bit more until we get to Aladdin. But here, there's a certain ideal to it. Something that we kind of saw in Snow White. But with Aurora, I think with Aurora, she's the most passionate of the three, primarily because whenever something hits her, she gets a bit wrapped up in the emotions in a way similar to Cinderella, because she has this great moment when she's talking about this person she met once upon a dream, how great it was to meet him, and then when she actually meets quote unquote the ideal person, Philip. She's a bit hesitant, but then she gets caught up in the moment and she loses track of time. And then when she finds out that it isn't going to be, that she isn't going to marry or be with the guy she just met, she has to marry someone else, she is distraught. She breaks down in tears, and then she's very stone-faced. She's putting up that brave front because a lot of stuff has just hit her. Not just that she can't marry this guy she met, but that she's a princess, that there's someone after her, that, she's going to meet her parents, that they aren't really her aunts. Like, her entire life has been flipped upside down 100,000%. And she can't deal. So with all these changes, she finally breaks down, and she's very susceptible. I kind of wonder if she could have fought off that control, although that was a beautiful scene when the whole intense scene of her being entranced by Maleficent to prick her finger on the spool of a spinning wheel, just classy evil, and goes from there. Then she's removed from the film. Interestingly enough, both she and Philip are removed from the film in different ways. There isn't a lot to honestly argue or discuss about Aurora that wouldn't possibly just come off as a negative critique of her. I don't think there's a lot to dislike about her. I think the real problem is she is designed to be perfect. I mean, she is blessed. Blessed by the good fairies. Two of them, actually, to be given the powers, well, not even the powers, but the gift of beauty and song, which is why, she's so able to be perfectly beautiful even though she's living in the forest, why, she's able to hit those beautiful notes. She's less of a natural perfection or beauty that Snow White and Cinderella were. And I think that sort of makes her a bit harder to approach. And we have a sort of problem like that with Belle, but with time. But at the same time, she's hard to wrap around because she doesn't get much to do here. There's not a moment where she interacts with someone and it informs us of her person, who she is. In the same way that Cinderella did with, her friends in the beginning of the film before she actually goes down to work. Coming up to Philip. Philip is... It's hard not to like Prince Philip. I don't know who couldn't like Philip, because Philip is awesome. Philip is the prodigal prince. All right, and the Disney Prince line had been waiting for. All right, because in a lot of ways he's Disney's first action hero, unless you want him to be Mickey Mouse, in which case it's Mickey. But he comes off as just the default prince. He gets a lot of what his predecessors didn't get because of budget or time or animation constraints. He gets the scene with his horse Samson, and Samson's a very weird looking horse, but that was supposed to be a scene for Henri in Cinderella. He gets to have a duet. Another thing that was for Henri and Cinderella, the nice little song he sings with her, and he gets to fight his way through Maleficent's quote-unquote army of really stupid-looking animals that Florian was supposed to get. But on to Philip's character. Like Aurora, Philip doesn't tell us a lot about him. We know he's good with animals, or at the very least he's good with his horse Samson. He likes to play around a bit. He likes, promise his pet something, promise his horse something. He clearly has a good relationship with his horse, and he also is romantically entranced a bit. This entire film revolves around romance being the definitive we fall in love just as we met. I mean, we've said that it's implied that Snow White and Florian had met before just because of how she talks about it. I gave my dark theory about Prince Henri being entranced in Cinderella. Here, it is, in my opinion, the definitive we met, we fall in love. And Philip seems totally entranced. Like, Philip has had the same dreams, too. That's why when he hears the voice, he's like, it's like he's remembering something. remembering a dream he had. It's really beautiful in that light. But again, Philip is best remembered for his actions, and it's even weirder because the action scenes he does can only be accomplished by the good fairies. They're the ones that not only break him out, they enable him to get from place to place. They enchant his swords. We can kill Maleficent. But even then, he puts in a lot of the physical labor. Like even he and Samson are just a dynamite power team. Even down to when you just see Philip just climbing the cliff face while still holding his shield and sword. It's really intense. Philip is again he's trying to breathe life into the Disney Prince lives. Like no, we're not just here to get the girl. Even though I'm going to get the girl, like physically going to get her. I can do stuff. I'm not like that Henri guy who delegated or presumably was searching the other half of the kingdom. We never knew. But coming up to the final thoughts of this, the biggest problem with Aurora and Philip is, again, they're kind of afterthoughts. This is a huge, epic game of good versus evil, and honestly, Aurora and Philip are just sort of pawns. They have this really beautiful love story, which is, two people who meet, and it's instant kismet, and they spend an unprecedented amount of time, well, unspecific amount of time, getting to know each other, presumably. Everything feels like we've met somewhere before, and it was just perfect. Which I guess was when she was a couple months old and he was 8. Or actually, it might have been 4. It's hard to tell. But the beauty of this is the importance that love finds a way. That when you love someone, things will always work out. This is again highlighted by the fact that Aurora and Philip don't know that they're betrothed to each other. Philip just meets this girl in the forest and is like, I want to marry her. Then it turns out, no, I've got to marry someone else. And then it turns out, hey, you were the one I was supposed to marry all along. What would have helped this film is if we had made it now and it wasn't like the movie Maleficent and we had it be about, again, stopping Maleficent, and they sort of, Aurora and Philip sort of meet and they don't quite know who the other is. But they become entranced, they talk to each other, and they each know, they don't know that they're supposed to marry each other, but they know they have other responsibilities. Like Aurora knows she's hiding from Maleficent. Philip knows he has to marry some girl, and he's possibly been training in case he has to fight Maleficent. I think that would have been a much more epic clash, and then they find out, oh, it was you all along. I think that would have worked. But I'm not a writer. Well, I'm not a movie writer. I'm a subpar, really unfinished novelist. But that's neither here nor there about my terrible credentials. Coming up to how we sum up Aurora and Philip, in this film they come off a bit like spoiled rich kids. Not horribly spoiled rich kids. Aurora is the debutante girl who just spent a couple of years living with her spinster sisters, and Philip is a guy who just finished his academy days. They're at the height of their lives. They're young, rich, pretty. It's all working out good for them, and so they haven't had a lot of time to sort of flesh out or grow as people. At least from my perspective, this film is again not about them, and I think that's what makes it so hard to talk about them. But if we had to go to parallels, I would have to say that just because it's really about the two of them, the best comparison would be the characters Oma and Shu from the Avatar: Last Airbender story, The Cave of Two Lovers. Oma and Shu were two earthbenders from rival villages, and they created this underground network of tunnels so they could meet and just be with each other. And then the fight between the villages erupted, and Shu never got to meet her that one day, and Oma just did this great display of earthbending, and the fighting came to a stop. And the city of Omashu was made in their honor. Well, named in their honor. If there was one thing I would fix about this film, it's the owls. Like, that owl is too happy. It's just too happy. Like, the only two owls in Disney that are allowed to be that happy, or anywhere near that happy, is Big Mama from The Fox and the Hound, because that movie needs a pick-me-up. It needs some form of joy. And Owl from Winnie the Pooh, even though Owl is a jerk. Like, he's a total jerk. So that ends the first wave of Disney royalty. And tune in next time where we're going to do a quick little intermission about where we sum up the Disney royalty line up to this point. This is the Bucket Think Tank signing out. May your fandom serve you well.